Your car check engine light comes on, and your first guess might be the oxygen sensor or the catalytic converter. Both are key players in your vehicle's emissions system, and both can cause similar symptoms when they go bad. But here's the catch. Just swapping one part without knowing which one is really causing the problem can be a costly mistake. In this video, I'll break down the signs of a bad oxygen sensor versus a bad catalytic converter, how to tell them apart, and why replacing just one might not fix the real issue. What do these parts actually do? Before we dive into symptoms, let's quickly understand what the oxygen sensor and catalytic converter do. The oxygen sensor, or O2 sensor, measures how much oxygen is in your exhaust gases. It sends this info to your car's computer, which uses it to adjust the fuel-air mixture for efficient combustion. If the sensor is faulty, your engine might run too rich or too lean, hurting fuel economy and increasing emissions. The catalytic converter is a device in your exhaust system that cleans harmful gases, like carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, and nitrogen oxides, turning them into less harmful emissions before they leave your tailpipe. If the catalytic converter is clogged or damaged, exhaust can't flow properly, your engine struggles, and emissions increase. Even though these parts do very different jobs, a bad oxygen sensor or a bad catalytic converter can cause some of the same symptoms, which makes diagnosis tricky. Warning: common symptoms they share. Here's where most people get confused. Both a bad O2 sensor and a failing catalytic converter can cause check engine light on the dashboard. Poor fuel economy, you might find yourself filling up more often. Rough idling or hesitation when accelerating. Loss of power or sluggish acceleration. Failed emissions test. Sometimes strange smells from the exhaust, like rotten eggs. Because the symptoms overlap so much, it's easy to think just swapping one part will fix the problem. But that's not always the case. Signs of a bad oxygen sensor. A bad oxygen sensor usually causes your car's computer to get wrong data about your engine's air-fuel mixture. This can lead to running too rich, meaning too much fuel and not enough air, or too lean, not enough fuel. Over time, this causes check engine light with codes like P0135, P0141, or P0171, which point to O2 sensor issues. Noticeably poor fuel mileage because the engine is wasting fuel. Black smoke from the exhaust or a strong fuel smell. Engine hesitation or rough running, especially when accelerating. Sometimes, your engine might run fine but still fail an emissions test due to incorrect air-fuel mixture. Oxygen sensors don't usually cause physical restrictions or noises. If you hear strange noises or notice your engine struggling hard to push exhaust out, it's less likely the sensor and more likely the catalytic converter. Signs of a bad catalytic converter. A failing catalytic converter usually means there's a blockage or damage inside the converter. This causes exhaust gases to back up, leading to poor engine performance and overheating. Signs include check engine light with codes like P0420, which means the catalytic converter is performing below efficiency. Loss of power or sluggish acceleration, because exhaust can't flow freely. Engine overheating or the car running hotter than usual. Rattling noises from underneath the car, especially when starting or accelerating. This can mean the internal parts of the converter are broken or loose. Failed emissions test due to high pollution levels. Sometimes, a strong rotten egg smell coming from the exhaust. Because the catalytic converter physically blocks exhaust flow when clogged, it can cause serious engine strain, something the oxygen sensor alone doesn't do. Why replacing just one can be a huge mistake. Here's why swapping only the oxygen sensor or only the catalytic converter might not solve your problem. If your oxygen sensor goes bad, it can cause a rich running condition that damages the catalytic converter over time. So, if you replace the sensor but the catalytic converter is already clogged or broken, you'll still have problems. On the flip side, if the catalytic converter is damaged and you only replace that part without checking or fixing a bad oxygen sensor, the new converter can quickly get damaged again because the sensor is still sending wrong fuel mixture data. In short, these parts work together, and a fault in one often affects the other. Replacing just one without proper diagnosis can lead to wasted money, repeated repairs, and frustration. How to diagnose the real problem? The best way to avoid costly mistakes is by properly diagnosing the issue. Here are some things you can do yourself. Use an OBD2 scanner to read trouble codes. Codes like P0135 usually mean oxygen sensor issues, while P0420 points to catalytic converter trouble. Check your fuel economy. A sudden drop might point to a bad oxygen sensor. Listen under your car. Rattling or unusual noises could mean a bad catalytic converter. Feel for heat. A catalytic converter that's clogged often gets extremely hot. You can carefully feel the converter and compare the temperature after driving. If it's much hotter than the rest of the exhaust, it might be blocked. Smell the exhaust. A rotten egg smell usually means converter issues, while a strong fuel smell points to oxygen sensor problems. Basic fixes you can try. If you suspect an oxygen sensor issue, sometimes cleaning the sensor's wiring connectors can help if they're corroded or dirty. But usually, oxygen sensors are replaced rather than cleaned. For catalytic converters, sometimes running the engine at higher RPMs on the highway for 15 to 20 minutes can help burn off carbon buildup inside the converter and improve flow, but this only works if the converter isn't physically broken or severely clogged. When to call the pros? If you've tried the basics and still have problems, or your diagnostic codes aren't clear, it's time to see a mechanic. A professional can run tests like a back pressure test or temperature test to check the converter and inspect the oxygen sensors with specialized tools. Replacing both parts together might seem expensive upfront, but it often saves money and prevents repeated repairs down the road. Know the difference to save money. To wrap up, a bad oxygen sensor and a bad catalytic converter can cause similar symptoms, but the root causes and fixes are very different. The oxygen sensor affects how your engine burns fuel, while the catalytic converter cleans up exhaust gases and can cause physical blockages. Replacing just one without proper diagnosis can lead to ongoing problems, wasted cash, and more frustration. Use a good scanner, pay attention to the symptoms, and don't hesitate to inspect the parts visually or get professional help if needed. Your car's emissions system is like a team. When one part fails, it can drag down the others. Knowing the difference between oxygen sensor and catalytic converter problems helps you make smart repairs, keep your car running cleanly, and save serious money in the long run. If you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more car tips, and drop your questions below. I'm here to help you keep your car running strong without breaking the bank.